Okay, cool.
All right, now I'm
Okay.
going to call to, the Finance and Operations Committee meeting to order. It's Monday, October the 2nd, and our first order of business is to consider applications for service for, and I'll just let you run through those, Tom.
Okay. Motion to approve recommendation for the Board of Disability Special Needs. Recommendation for consideration of Johnny Bowler for first term.
First and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hey, now I say something.
You can
I've been
let it
trying
go.
to find somebody for mine. I ain't had no success yet.
It's
Oh,
hard.
good. Oh,
Turn it off.
okay. Next one, Lake Wiley Marine Commission recommendation to consider reappointment of Quail Williford for a second term and recommendation to consider appointment of Raymond Williams to a first term.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Catawba Mental Health Board recommendation for consideration the appointment of Janelle Stevenson for a first term.
Second.
That's Stevens.
Stevens,
Yes.
Stevens, yeah.
All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Rock Hill York County Convention Visitor Bureau recommendation for consideration the appointment of Chip Hutchinson for a second term.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Bethel Lake Wiley Land Acquisition Preservation Park District Board recommendation for consideration of appointment of Amy Villati and Jamie Hendrickson, Lawrence Burrow, and Daniel Venosa.
We're only doing
Second.
two.
Oh,
We're
we're
only doing two.
Oh, we're only doing two?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Ann
All
and
right.
Jamie.
And Jim.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the first two on there. So we're not gonna fill the other two spots?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Well,
There's some more applications coming in. They just want to be sure that certain people weren't on there. And I think one of them's pulled their application. It's
Okay.
still on here, but it's been pulled.
do one of yours and one mine.
Well,
No,
do you
they're-
wanna do?
this is Bethel Park District Board. This is the District 2 Special Tax District.
Right, okay. All right, so I guess we would just go with the first two, I guess recommended.
Ann Violante and
Jim.
Jamie Hendrickson.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I guess we would. And then are we gonna go
What?
next time around to fill these other
There'll be some new ones on there.
new ones?
What?
Okay. Yeah, I think these, but these right here, I think would be the ones that I think would be in line with what you, I think, we're recommending also too, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay. Oakdale Fire Tax District Board recommendation for consideration, the appointment of Johnny Stearns for first term, recommendation of consideration of appointment of Donald Beckler for first term.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. And last, York County Forever, like to recommend that we defer this for, I think, next meeting? Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next little business to take care of here are some more allocations for the discretionary funds. So,
Okay. Committee to consider allocation of funds from District 4 to the Love and Cherish Family Center Food Pantry in the amount of $4,000.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye. Committee to consider allocation of funds from District 4 to Eden Community Development Corporation in the amount of $4,000.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Committee to consider allocation of funds from District 3 to Divine Fountain of Hope in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Discussion regarding amendment to procurement ordinance to adjust requirements.
Second.
Well, we're gonna have an open
What?
discussion.
Oh, on this?
Yeah, on
Yeah,
this
okay,
one.
Second for
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah,
The pregnancy women crisis,
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
they're in.
Tom? All those in favor say aye.
He keeps.
Let's go ahead and approve the minutes. Just go ahead and skip to that
Okay,
last one.
you got it. Approve the minutes from September 5th, 2023 Finance and Operation Committee meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah.
Okay, discussion regarding the amendments to the procurement ordinance to adjust the requirements.
Okay, so you have before you a piece of paper that kind of walks through and summarizes the changes that we have. Now, I don't know if all of you were on F&O whenever this first came up as a discussion several months ago. But we talked about,
Y'all need to
updating our procurement ordinance and, basically expanding those thresholds not only for staff but for council too, to make things easier on the staff level and on the council level to get things approved and those sorts of things.
And I give some backdrop on this. It was about a year ago, we had a meeting with the sheriff and his staff in procurement to try to figure out ways to move things along a little better for him, and this is one of his suggestions or requests that came out of it. And we started the process. I don't know if you remember, we discussed this probably 6-8 months ago, and other things started going on. We sort of put it in the back burner. But Sheriff Tolson's not able to be here, but he supports this and would appreciate this request as well. What happens is that the vehicles are getting caught up in the mix in this.
Mhm.
Before $30,000, you could go ahead and get a vehicle under $30,000 was changes made, and you really can't now. And so it creates a bit of a bottleneck on him getting his equipment and everybody else in the county as well.
Mhm.
So our procurement director, Tiara, present,
Right here.
she went through and, she went through and looked at benchmarks and that sort of stuff and kind of came up with some thresholds. We also put in here, those of you on the Public Safety Committee, how we talked about the non-tax revenue dollars or whatever being spent at the fire districts and expanding their thresholds for
Barbecue
procurement.
money.
Yep, barbecue money. So we put that in here too. So, at the staff level, it's recommended, at the management level, it's recommended, and now it's back before F&O. And, we can go through this if y'all want, or if y'all have any questions about what's before you or anything like that. It's just kind of open mic.
So where specifically is the barbecue money? Like
Yeah,
this
so-
page
Look at the
does-
two columns.
So
This is
there's
right,
two
circle.
columns. The first column says current. That's what our current procurement code is. So
Across the board.
Across
Yes.
the board.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
So then your second column is the proposed change for all
And
for
see where it
across
says
the
up to
board.
$3,000?
Yep.
If you look in the next column over, that's the fire. It's got up to 10,500.
So was that a change from 3,000 to 10,000?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
we were at 2,500 everybody across the board.
So
Okay.
when it came
Firefighters wanted more liberty with their barbecue purchases.
So they get two quotes on barbecue. So they get two quotes on
Yeah.
barbecue.
No, so it currently raises that threshold where on barbecue money they can spend up to $10,500 without getting any type of quotes. That
Oh,
should-
that's line one. That's
yes,
that first
exactly.
line.
So
Okay.
they should be able to go buy all the barbecue they want without having to mess with procurement code.
Okay.
What's another example of something that would have been 2,500 that would now be 10,500?
There's nothing else that's
There's-
10,500. That
I mean,
that
like
column's
a-
only for firefighters.
Yeah, so like if anything is over 10,500, we did feel that you should still have to follow procurement at that. I mean that now you're talking about more of a substantial amount of money.
So that
any-
line
so
is specifically for fire department.
just for
Okay.
non-tax revenue. So if it is barbecue money, they can spend it up to
Okay.
10,500. Anything over that, they have to follow normal procurement, like getting quotes and that sort of stuff.
So, I mean, it could be like a John boat or a four-wheeler that might be under 10,000, they wouldn't have, they could just go buy it.
Okay.
If it was with the non-tax dollars, the
Right.
barbecue.
Yes.
So, I've never really been a real fan of the on-call engineering and architect stuff. So that's a big jump from 30 to 75,000. What is the average that they have to spend on something like that? That's an on-call.
And that has been some of the discussion. $30,000 is not really going to get it in terms of a consultant these days, and that's why we ask so that we won't have to go before the council to get the consultants in, the architects for design type of services. But for those larger projects, they'll still need to come before the council.
So anything over 75,000.
Yes.
So the pre-qualified consultants, how are they chosen? Like,
Okay, they were chosen through the request for proposals. Council approved it. And what we're proposing now, we're still working out the kinks in that process. But what we're proposing now for those pre-qualified firms, if it's 30,000 or less, then we have a roster. Just to ensure accountability and transparency.
Okay.
We're being fair in the process and selection. For those projects that are 30,000 or more, then we're asking those pre-qualified firms only for a request for a proposal to see who's best qualified
at
for a
what point does
specific
that
project.
list of, I would call them vendors, at what point does that list get updated? Like the list of the pre-qualified?
The one that has been approved is 3 years.
And that's something that goes before y'all every 3 years, and it's an
Yes.
RFQ that goes out to make sure they're qualified.
Yeah.
And then the departments, and it might be 3 people, it might be 10 vendors that they determine to be qualified. And so then those go before council, the list of all the vendors, and then y'all approve that. That happens, I guess, every 3 years is a regular cycle for the.
And of that list, do they pick who they want, or do those 10 or however many there are? all-
Procurement selects. We'll
Okay.
tell them who's
Okay.
next in the queue to
Okay.
ensure that everyone is getting work.
Okay.
Gotcha. So each one of the ones that are in queue, each one have equal so for example, are they ranked though from within the queue, or is it next man up on that?
If
Next
they're,
man up.
if they're all
That's a next
qualified
man.
to do
Yes.
the work,
Gotcha.
and they're under that threshold, then there's a rotation. Because what we saw going through looking at stuff in the past, we noticed, hey, one vendor's getting all the work given to him.
Right.
That's why we interjected procurement in there, and it's an exigency, just one. But it wasn't being divided up evenly. If they're all
Yeah.
equally qualified, the work should be going equally. So now procurement there's a rotation. Procurement will give the vendor who's up next. If there's a specific reason why engineering thinks that somebody else should go because they're better on this particular job, what it might be, they can then provide the written documentation of why they feel like we should be skipping to this vendor, and that goes to Mr. Hudsmith for his review and approval.
So I think the part that bothers me about this has always been just on call. Because to me, on call, if you're on call, you're generally making more than somebody who's not on call. I mean, so maybe the terminology
Maybe the
is not the same,
terminology.
but it just
Yes.
it sounds like it's more expensive.
But Allison, one thing
We
that's
prefer to call them
is that
pre-qualified.
they're being
Okay.
there's
Yeah, we
a
should probably change.
there's a
that.
procurement process in place for these to make sure it moves quickly, and we've got an abridged version of the RFQ information that's provided procurement. But then there's still a competitive bid process to make sure that we're getting good prices on those projects. So the term on call, I agree that renaming, as you suggested, might be better to do it.
Yeah.
We got pre-qualified vendors we're going out to.
Yeah, I had the same concern there on that. And in the fact that we previously were at 30,000 here, and then is there the reason though for the 75,000? Is that just because the normal pricing was averaging close to 75,000 for these, or was
It was averaging more than 30, and
More
we
than-
felt comfortable, given this volatile market,
Mhm.
we felt comfortable with 75.
Okay, so the range was between 30 and 75, most
Yes.
of what you've been seeing.
Yes, for the
Are you
smaller
making that a motion to
projects.
change the name?
Yeah, I'll do, I go ahead and motion
But-
to change the name
But
to
like that, was that
pre-qualified.
Got it. Yeah.
sort of like when we,
You could- just need a second. Yeah, real quick.
For a second.
say,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
What was your
Yep.
question, Tommy?
well, like when we approved here the other week on the architect and offered the building here,
Mhm.
is that in that group like?
They would have been an
Yeah.
example, one that was already
Yeah.
qualified. Yeah, they would have been already qualified.
So what's the difference on these two, the last two things here? The on-call architect engineering services, 75,000 maximum, pre-qualified consultants only, previously basically 30,000. The next line is on-call engineering services, 75,000 or more, requires
There's a law around architects, right?
formal solicitation. It was previously 30,000. So
There's a law around architects that you gotta treat them differently, basically. For the architects, they get prices, it's a state
But
law.
I think to answer
So-
Allison's
so the-
question, if it's under 75, we can select from our pre-qualified people.
okay.
If it's over 75, then we have to do a brand new RFP, RFQ.
Okay.
Because
that's-
what we're really trying to do is capture the smaller projects that
them moving.
maybe testing
Yes.
firms or surveyors or something on a piece of property or something. Those are generally things you want quickly. The other things are gonna be big water and sewer projects or something like that, and we've got time to bid it out without really impacting the project. And
Okay.
$75,000 doesn't buy what it used to, so.
So what is though the difference between architectural / engineering services and then engineering services?
The architectural, you cannot select based off price, state law. You just can't.
Mhm.
You gotta get those, has to be negotiated with them, discussing the rates. They lobbied the state legislatures apparently very effectively on that. That was something
Mhm.
that the engineering department pulled up and brought to procurement, years ago, Tia, right, on that?
Okay.
And we vetted that, and it's legit. You gotta treat them differently when you go to get
Okay,
quotes from
so
them.
that's why it's separated.
And the logic behind it is you don't want somebody designing like a bridge or something like that to be the cheapest one.
Yeah,
So
okay, no.
Like Rock Hill.
that was a parking garage.
All right.
Okay, so
So-
do we need to make a recommendation to council on this tonight? Do we need to
Yeah,
vote on
I
this?
think
Okay.
it's,
Okay, because it just
It's
said-
gonna come back in the form of a agenda item, though, right?
yes, it'll be on the next council agenda,
You
but you're gonna,
change the
tonight, you're gonna
ordinance.
vote
Yeah,
to recommend to
ordinance.
council.
Okay.
So we'll start the ordinance process, first, second, third, starting next meeting.
With modification to
With that name change you mentioned,
Mhm.
yes, sir.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that your motion, Tom?
Well, I'll go ahead. Motion to recommend propose procurement changes as stated, with modification to on-call to modify to pre-qualified. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, finance update?
You also have in front of you the month of July, which is the start of our new fiscal year '24. It's the beginning of the year, so there's really not much to tell you other than, hey, no surprises. That's a good thing, right? So everything so far is tracking as it should. The biggest things to tell you is our vacancy rate, both in the sheriff's office and across the rest of the general fund, both came in at 11.7% in July. So, I mean, I know we've been talking about that for several months now. That just makes it, I mean, y'all know this by now, it makes it hard. The other things that I want to let you know is our external auditors, Elliott Davis, they will be here at the end of the month, so we'll be doing our audit of FY23. We are expected, to come in the black, but we'll get you those final numbers as we wrap up that audit, and, we'll just
And
go from there.
I want to interject regarding Elliott Davis. Council had originally approved, it was a 5-year contract, 3 years with an option to extend to. We have discussed with Elliott Davis extending another 2 years. That'll be on the next agenda. We feel like that's very important because they've audited us all the way through in the ARPA funding, the Biden bucks or whatnot. And we've worked with them to make sure we've got everything documented just the way they want to see it. I don't want to change audit firms midstream in that, have another firm come in there and say, oh, we're smarter than Elliott Davis, it should have been this or that, and cause us any problems with that, so.
That'll be on our next agenda?
It'll be on, not the agenda tonight, but the second meeting in October, that 2-year extension of Elliott Davis will be in there.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Better grab sandwiches before the meeting.
Thank y'all.
Christie got
Debbie
sandwiches.
was down
Been a long
there,
night.
snacking, and bring out a look, she was eating.
Thank you. I'm on my way down.
No.
Grab one.